Imagine standing in your own driveway, clutching a single trash bag filled with your life's remains, while your father changes the locks and your mother speeds away in a car packed with designer luggage she bought using your college fund. My parents didn't just get a divorce. They staged a coordinated demolition of my entire existence, leaving me standing on a curb with no keys, no money, and absolutely nowhere to go. Have you ever been looked in the eye by the two people who are supposed to love you most, and told that you are nothing more than an inconvenient line item in a legal settlement? Was I wrong for finally burning every bridge they had left after they threw me out like last week's garbage? Or would you have done the exact same thing if your own blood treated you like a stranger? To understand how I ended up homeless at 19, you have to understand the facade of the Miller family. Growing up, we were the definition of suburban royalty. My dad was a high-level corporate consultant, and my mom was a boutique interior designer. We lived in a house that looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. All white marble, glass walls, and manicured lawns. But inside those glass walls, things were cold. My parents didn't really love each other. They loved the image of us. I was just another accessory, like a high-end watch or a luxury SUV. As long as I got straight A's and looked good in family photos, they provided the basics. But the moment their marriage started to crumble, the masks slipped, and I realized I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a liability. The fighting started about 6 months ago. It wasn't just yelling, it was psychological warfare. They began hiding assets, liquidating accounts, and using me as a pawn to spy on one another. Dad would offer me extra gas money if I told him who Mom was texting, and Mom would promise me a new laptop if I accidentally left Dad's office door unlocked, so she could look at his financial statements. I refused to play their games, and that was my first mistake. By staying neutral, I became the common enemy. The day the divorce was finalized, I thought the nightmare was over. I figured they'd sell the house, split the money, and we'd all move on to smaller, quieter lives. I was currently taking a gap year, working 2 part-time jobs to save up for my second year of university because, despite their wealth, they insisted I learn the value of $1. I had about $15,000 saved in an account that was technically a joint custodial account with my mother. A setup from when I was 16 that we never changed. On a Tuesday afternoon, I came home from my shift at the library to find a moving truck in the driveway. My mother was frantically throwing clothes into suitcases. She didn't even look at me. She just said, "Your father is keeping the house in the settlement, but he's selling it to a developer next week. I'm moving to the city. Don't look for me. I need a fresh start without any reminders of this marriage." I was stunned. I asked her where I was supposed to go, and she shrugged, saying I was an adult and should have planned better. When I tried to log into my bank account to book a motel, my heart dropped. The balance was zero. My mother had drained my entire college fund and my hard-earned savings to offset the legal costs of her divorce. She didn't even leave me enough for a bus fare. I stood in the kitchen, the sunlight hitting the marble countertops in a way that usually felt warm, but now felt like ice. I showed her the screen of my phone, the zero staring back at us like a void. She didn't blink. She just adjusted her pearls and told me that the money was technically family money, and since the family was no more, she had to look out for number one. She even had the audacity to suggest I check the local shelters, saying it would be a character-building experience for someone who had grown up so privileged. When my dad got home an hour later, I thought he would be the rational one. He had always been the one to talk about logic and fairness. I showed him the empty bank account and told him Mom had already left for the city. He didn't offer a hug or a place to stay. Instead, he handed me a heavy-duty trash bag. He told me that since the house was sold, he needed to vacate the premises by morning to collect his payout. He said he was moving into a one-bedroom bachelor pad downtown, and there simply wasn't room for a grown woman to be crashing on the couch. He told me I had 2 hours to pack what I could carry. I begged him, crying, asking how he could do this to his only child. He looked at me with total indifference and said, "Life is about choices, Sarah. You chose not to help me during the proceedings, so don't expect me to help you now." He literally timed me. Every 15 minutes, he would shout the remaining time from the hallway, his voice echoing through the empty rooms where we used to have Christmas dinners. At the 2-hour mark, he walked me to the front door, took my key, and locked it. I stood there, holding a bag of clothes and my laptop, watching my childhood home go dark. I sat on the curb for hours, calling every relative I had. My aunt told me she didn't want to get involved in the drama, and my grandparents' phone went straight to voicemail. I realized then that my entire family was built on a foundation of shallow convenience. Even my best friend, Chloe, who had lived across the street for 10 years, made an excuse about her parents not wanting excess baggage in their guest room. It was a total abandonment. So there I was, sitting on a cold sidewalk with nothing but the clothes on my back and a dead phone battery, realizing that the two people who brought me into this world had decided I was no longer worth the effort of a roof over my head. I had to make a choice right then. Do I crawl back and beg for a spot on a floor? Or do I find a way to make them regret the day they decided I was disposable? Before I tell you how I turned the tables on both of them, and ensured they walked away with nothing, I want you to pause. Look at your own life, your own parents, or your own kids. If you were in my shoes, betrayed, robbed, and homeless, what would your next move be? Would you disappear quietly, or would you fight back? Drop a comment right now and tell me what you would have done. I spent the first night in a 24-hour diner, nursing a single cup of coffee I paid for with the $5 bill in my pocket. The waitress, a woman named Martha who looked like she'd seen 1,000 girls like me, didn't kick me out. She just kept refilling my cup and whispered that as long as I kept my head down, the manager wouldn't notice. As the sun came up, my sadness turned into a cold, hard rage. I remembered something my dad had forgotten in his rush to kick me out. Because he was so obsessed with his corporate consulting, he often had me help him with his digital filing. I knew his passwords. I knew where he hid the off-the-books records of his business dealings. The ones he didn't report during the divorce so he wouldn't have to share the profits with my mom. I spent the next 4 days at the public library, fueled by vending machine granola bars and pure spite. I logged into his encrypted cloud storage. My dad had been facilitating consulting fees that were actually kickbacks for city contracts. Thousands upon thousands of dollars moved through accounts that didn't exist in the divorce papers. And my mom? She had a secret of her own. She had been staging homes with expensive furniture that she was actually billing to her clients as new, while pocketing the difference and using refurbished items. It was massive fraud. I went to the public library and spent 12 hours straight downloading every document, every hidden ledger, and every incriminating email I could find from their shared cloud drives. I even found a folder labeled Miscellaneous, which contained recordings of their phone calls. Recordings they had made of each other to use as blackmail. They were so busy trying to destroy each other that they left the keys to their own kingdom in my hands. First, I went to my father's new developer. I told them that the house they were buying had undisclosed structural issues and a pending lien that I had discovered in the records. It wasn't entirely true, but it was enough to make the developers pull their offer to investigate. The sale fell through, and my dad lost his immediate payout, triggering a massive financial penalty in his divorce settlement that he couldn't pay. He had leveraged everything on that sale, and without it, he was underwater. Then I took the evidence of his tax evasion to the IRS. I sat in a sterile office and handed over a USB drive that contained 20 years of greed. If he wasn't going to give me a place to live, he could find a new home in a federal cell. As for my mother, I sent the proof of her furniture fraud to her 3 biggest clients and the local licensing board. I included photos of the refurbished tags she had hidden under the luxury upholstery. Within 48 hours, her business was blacklisted, and she was facing multiple lawsuits that would eventually strip her of every designer bag she'd stolen my tuition for. But I wasn't done. I knew they both had a reserve fund and a Cayman account they had hidden from each other. Using the power of attorney document my dad had stupidly had me sign years ago for emergency business purposes, that he never revoked, I managed to freeze those assets by reporting them as part of an identity theft investigation. I didn't take the money for myself, I couldn't. But I made sure they couldn't touch a cent of it either. The legal gridlock I created was a masterpiece of revenge. The aftermath was a glorious, chaotic mess. My father called me screaming, sobbing that he was being ruined. He was staying in a cheap motel because his bachelor pad lease had been revoked when his credit score tanked overnight. I told him, "Life is about choices, Dad. You chose the house over me, and now you have neither." My mother tried to play the victim, texting me that she was sorry and that we could work it out if I just dropped the fraud claims. She even tried to claim she took my money to keep it safe from my dad. I blocked her number. I ended up staying with a friend from the library for a few weeks until I used the whistleblower reward from the tax evasion report, a hefty percentage of the recovered funds, to get my own small apartment. It's not a marble mansion, and it doesn't have glass walls, but the locks are mine, and I'm the only one with a key. My parents are currently embroiled in a fresh legal battle against the state and their former clients. They lost the house, they lost their careers, and most importantly, they lost the daughter who would have done anything for them if they had just shown a shred of humanity. I heard recently that my dad is working a low-level desk job just to pay his legal fees, and my mom is living in a studio apartment smaller than my old walk-in closet. The moral of this story is that blood doesn't make you family, loyalty and love do. My parents taught me that the people who are supposed to protect you can sometimes be the ones you need protection from the most. They tried to leave me with nothing, but they forgot that they were the ones who taught me how to be ruthless. I'm starting over now, on my own terms, and for the first time in my life, I actually feel at home. If you think I did the right thing by taking everything from them after they left me homeless, like this video to show your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of justice and survival, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I want to know if you think I went too far, or if they got exactly what they deserved. I'll see you all in the next story.